What is going on? Can you get paid to buy a home? Is that clickbait? Well, maybe a little bit, but I'm about to tell you exactly how a recent client of mine bought a home and walked away with $2,200 check at closing. It's like a dream. Like who wants to bring money to buy a home? Who said buying a home is expensive? You just make a little bit money on the side doing it. This is no gimmicks. I'm not gonna try to sell you something. This is literally rules that you can use to actually get paid to buy a home and walk away with a check instead of bringing money. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so a recent client of mine, it was a little while back, but it's still recent. He ended up buying a home and getting paid $2,200 at closing. He got a check that he could take home that same day in cash. How did he do this? Well, there's a couple different programs that you can use, a couple different strategies that you can possibly get away with when doing this. I'm not going to say that this is the easiest thing to do. I'm not telling you that you can just go look at the first great home that you find that you absolutely love and walk away and get paid for it. If you truly want to get paid to buy a home, it's going to take a little bit of time. He actually bought the first home that we looked at and he got paid on that home, but that's not always going to happen, especially in this wacky, crazy market. There are a couple programs that you can use to help finance a home, and they might cost you a little bit in the long run, such as an increased interest rate, but it's very little, and it's very little. So this client, he used a program that we have called a USDA loan. And this USDA loan is a 0% down loan with very inexpensive closing costs. You do need to have some cash in hand at closing and your bank account to be able to pay to show that you can pay your loan, your next month's payment, right? But you don't need an excessive amount of closing costs. It's one of the cheaper loans you can do. Buying power is usually smaller, but it's one of the cheaper closing costs you can go. And it's 0% down. He loved the first one that we went and looked at. He wrote an offer on it. It got accepted. He ended up asking the sellers for closing costs, for $4,000 in closing costs. The sellers agreed. Now, this is something that's a little tough to get away with in this market, getting your closing costs paid for, but it can happen, especially if you're not super picky about what you want. There are a lot of homes you can't get this done on, but this particular one, he was able to get this done on. And it does happen. I want to say about half of my clients get some, if not all, of their closing costs paid for, and it's because we strategize and we figure it out, and honestly, luck sometimes. So anyway, so we got $4,000 in closing costs paid for. Now, when we were moving to the closing table, the closing cost for this USDA loan was going to be $4,000. We got that paid for by the seller. So we're rolling through, everything's going good, it appraises, there's no issues with inspections, they fix a couple things, and we're here coming to the closing. And because taxes are paid in arrears in Indiana, where I don't know how it's paid where you are living, I don't know if you're living in Indiana, but it's paid in arrears, which means that you are paying, this year you're paying for last year, the time that you lived there last year. And so that's prorated to the buyer in Indiana. So he got a tax proration of that amount of $2,200 since his closing cost is paid for by the seller, that $4,000, and he got a tax proration. He walked away with $2,200. So he brought $0 to the closing table and he walked away with $2,200. That is pretty fantastic, I think. In my own opinion, not that it means much, but I think so. Another way you can get your closing costs paid for and take home a check, and this has happened too in the past with another client of mine, is certain down payment assistance programs. Now, every state probably has some sort of housing down payment assistance program. And the one we have in Indiana is called, there's two of them actually. There is two of them I know of and have used is Indiana Housing and Chinoa. Indiana Housing and Chinoa are the two down payment assistance programs. Indiana Housing will give you up to 6% of your down payment. And this has actually worked out in favor of some of my clients. For the Indiana Housing, you need to be I believe you need to be a first-time home buyer or not have bought a home within the last 3 years. And you need a certain credit score, which I don't remember what the credit score was, but you do need a certain credit score. The interest rate is slightly higher, but not too much higher. That's how you pay them back, student interest rates. And it's forgiven after 3 years of occupancy in that home, making payments on time. So he got this down payment assistance program that was giving him all this cash. He also got his closing costs paid for. I think it was $3,500 paid for. So he got his down payment paid for, he got his closing costs paid for, and he ended up walking away with, I believe, $700 check because the extra money that Indiana Housing was giving him gave him that extra buffer, and he was able to walk home with money, which is pretty fantastic. I don't know how that sounds to you, but it sounds great to me. Like I said, there's no gimmick here. This is not me selling you anything. This is literal programs from the government to help you walk away with a check or bring no money to the closing table. It's pretty freaking fantastic, I think. Another way is with Chinoa. Chinoa is another program here in Indiana, at least. I don't know about Michigan or Ohio, if they still exist or whatever. But over here in Indiana, there's something called Chinoa. It is not by the government, but it is a down payment assistance program, and it also will pay for your closing costs. And it's forgiven after 3 years of making payments on time as well. Now, how to get paid on that front? Well, ask for closing costs and you'll get paid your down payment. Ask for enough closing costs and you'll walk home with a check or not have to bring any money at all. Now, here's how, what if you can't get away with just asking for closing costs? I know this is a competitive market. People are offering crazy amounts over asking, and it's tough. It is tough. I mean, it's not happening not as bad as people make it out to be, and people aren't offering $20,000 over on every single home, but it is happening, and it is something that makes it tougher to get your closing costs paid for. So how do you get closing costs paid for when you are trying to compete? What can you do? Now, this depends on your loan type as well. If you're conventional and you're 3% down or 5% down, it's going to be, the loan cost is cheaper. Now, every loan has cost. An FHA loan, they have extra cost that a conventional loan doesn't have. All right, now say you're competing and you want to get closing costs paid for, but you don't want to ask for it up front. So what can you do? Well, if you are able to get away with inspections and you write the offer, you have the down payment assistance program, your Indiana Housing or Chinoa, you're paying for your down payment, and you have inspections. You're able to get away with inspections. If inspections find something, which they always do, and you don't even need, even if they don't find much at all, you can ask the seller to pay some closing costs due to inspections. Say you have bounced up on inspections and you are concerned about it and you want to make sure you have the money to fix it, and you ask them to pay your closing costs after you get an inspection. This can work out pretty well. It has brought people from having to bring $8,000 to closing to only having to bring around $4,000, $2,000. So that is how you get paid to buy a home. That's how you walk away with cash. That's how you save money and buy a home. Something that I will be doing next time. I will be doing my best to be able to do that. I would actually probably use a portfolio loan, and that's a bit different. You can definitely get your closing costs paid for with that as well. So I'm thinking of that too. I'm brainstorming of how I'm gonna get it for the low. If you enjoyed this video or got some value, please leave a like and subscribe and potentially hit that bell for notifications. It's free and it supports me to the fullest, and I really would appreciate it. Click this video to learn how to get a home for $1,000 right here. Just click on this video. It's right in front of you.